We are now in section 3 of chapter 1, and you'll see that the title is Data Collection and Sampling Techniques. Again, have some way that you're keeping up with your vocabulary, your ideas, and you're making sure to ruminate on them. You're thinking on them, you're pondering them, you're not just writing them down and moving on. You're jotting down ideas that make sense to you to give meaning to all of this, which is called sense making. I do want to point out some things on this page as an introduction to this section. Again, I've only underlined some ideas. It is advisable that you go back and read all the parts that I'm not. I did underline that data can be collected in a variety of ways. One of the most common methods is through the use of surveys. That would be a great question. You know, what's one of the most common methods of collecting data? Surveys. And you can do them a variety of ways, and then 3 of the most common are telephone, a mailed questionnaire, and personal interview. And this is a great time for you to think about, when do I get a survey? Like when you're at a checkout line and they hand you the receipt and say, and they circle it even and say, call this and you get a free such and such for completing our survey. Or maybe at the end of a transaction online. Think about your world, tie it into this world, and then start thinking, do they use telephone surveys anymore? How about mailed question surveys? And how great do you think the response will be on those? Also, personal interview survey, literally talking to someone personally. And would that be also on phone, face-to-face, in the mall? Has anyone ever stopped you? Continuing on, data can be collected other ways, like surveying records or direct observation. And that was what I used for my dissertation as I looked at existing records for my data. I put this one in yellow, that using samples saves time and money in some cases, and in some cases enables the researcher to get more detailed information about a particular subject. The population is very likely not going to be something you can talk to every single participant, every single thing, person, object, whatever it might be, observation. So we use samples. So starting to get your mind wrapped around that, even with the title of this section, and they cannot be collected in haphazard ways, or you got a sorry, no good study, and your results are sorry and no good, because the information obtained might be biased. And that's a word that you need to start hanging on to. And what does that mean? What does it look like? What are the types? We'll get there. For example, interviewing people on a street corner during the day would not include people who are working in the offices at that time, or people at school, or people off that day. Hence, not all the subjects of a population have a chance of being selected. And so there are going to be some other huge words. A chance of being selected. To obtain samples that are unbiased, in other words, that give each subject in the population an equally likely chance of being selected, statisticians use 4 basic methods. You're going to watch 2 videos. The first video is going to talk about random sampling and systematic. Those are 2. Then you have stratified and cluster. So the first video is going to talk about random and systematic. The second video is going to talk about stratified and cluster. So spend quality time listening to, thinking through these 4 types of sampling. After those videos, you're going to come back and I'm going to go on with, and there are other sampling methods.